Hi everyone, good morning and good evening. Today I am going to make a video on SAP MII manufacturing data object, that is a feature added from SAP MI version 12.2. So if you will be using SAP MII version that is lesser than 12.2, you will not able to see the Mdo in your SAP MI. So whenever you want to work on Mdo, the SAP MI version at least 12.2 should be there. Now I'm moving to next slide. So here in through the diagram, I will explain how Mdo works in SAP MI and how it is beneficial to use in SAP MI. So what is Mdo? So Mdo provides a ability to create a data model, or you can say a data structure in SAP MI itself. So whenever I am saying allowing modeling a data structure in SAP MII, it means your Mdo will be getting stored in NetViewer database. So whenever we will be creating a Mdo, that will be stored in SAP MI database, or you can say a NetViewer database where SAP MI has been installed. So Mdo eliminate your external database as well. So I will come to that. And the main thing about the Mdo is that Mdo support OpenSQL. So if you are going for migrating your project, SAP MI project from one database to another database, suppose right now you are using a SQL server, and tomorrow suppose you are moving to Oracle database or SAP HANA database. So there will be no code changes required because OpenSQL supported by all the databases. But if you are writing any native SQL query, that will be supported by a particular database only. So Mdo support OpenSQL. So there will be no any issue if you are migrating from one database to another database. So this is about the Mdo. Now I'm going through the diagram here. You can see a data provider layer. So data provider layer provides you a data. So it might be your a database or might be your machine data. So it might be any data source. By using that data source, we are getting a data in SAP MII. So as I already explained that connecting to any data source, either you have to use message services or web services, or you can use data server by creating a data server using a particular connector that is supported by the source system. So after doing a connection, you will be able to write a MI query template or SAP MI transaction if you want to apply some logic. Okay, so MI query means I'm saying here all the queries depending on your data source. Like XML query you can write if your data source is XML. SQL query you can write if your data source is database. Pico query you can write if your data source is a Pico system. So depending on the data source you connected, depending on that you can write a MI query to fetch or write the data to the data source. So here, this is the data provider layer. This is your data source. And this is data acquisition layer. So data acquisition layer where we used to fetch the data from SAP, from your data source to SAP MII. So after fetching a data to MI layer in the SAP MII, suppose you have written a SQL query to fetch or to retrieve table data in MII. So it will come to the MI layer. Now you want to store this data. Okay. So there is no places in SAP MI before SAP MI version 12.2 to store your data in SAP MI database. So what earlier it's been done, we used to connect to the third party database. It means you can say the external database, and in the external database you have to create a table, and in that table you can push your data by writing a insert query, insert SQL query. Okay, or you might update it or delete it through the SQL query. So after getting a data from your data provider, here you can write a SQL query and push the data to the external database. But I already explained earlier that to connecting a database, you have to create a data server first, and on that data server, you can write a query in the workbench. So now from SAP version 12.2, SAP has introduced a manufacturing data object. So instead of creating a table to store your data in an external database, you can model your data structure in SAP MI itself by using Mdo. So if I'm comparing Mdo with a database table, so you will get understand it very quickly, that actually it will very easy to understand if you know any database. So suppose in a database, to store a data, you have to create a table. Okay, and you can insert the data in a table, you can delete the data from the table, or you can fetch or retrieve the data from the table. Okay, so now in Mdo, by using the Mdo also you can create one persistent Mdo to store the data in SAP MI database. Okay, so here the concept is that storing the data inside the SAP MI database by creating your Mdo. So while you will create Mdo in SAP MI, so there are different type of Mdo, like a persistent Mdo. So I'm talking here about the persistent Mdo and comparing with the database table. So create one persistent Mdo in SAP MII. So it will ask you that what are a column you need for your data modeling or your data structure. The same thing whenever you will create a table in your external database or any other database, it will ask you that what all columns and types should be there in your table. So same thing you can create in SAP MI using Mdo as well. So now here, storing your data in an external database, you have another option that you can store your data in MI database itself by using your Mdo concept. Okay, so now your data is stored in your Mdo. Okay, so how will access the Mdo data? So the second point is coming, that how I will query the data from the Mdo data model. And here, as you know, from any database, extracting the data, updating or deleting the data, you are working with the SQL query, because database understand SQL query. So same like that in SAP MI, Mdo understand Mdo query. Okay, so you can write a Mdo query on your created Mdos, and that Mdo query you can write for the inserting a data into the Mdo. The same like that you are writing a insert query to insert a data in your database. You can write update Mdo query, you can write delete Mdo query, or even you can write a select Mdo query to um, retrieve or fetch the data from the Mdo. So now you got one alternative to store the data in a my database. So that's the reason you can say here, you can eliminate your external database if you are going to use Mdo in SAP MII. So now Mdo provides SAP MI provides a Mdo query. By using the Mdo query, you can insert, update, delete, or select the data. And if you want to write some logic, you can use your Mdo queries inside your transaction. And by using the transaction inside the action block in the transaction, you can push the data to the ERP or retrieve even the data into the SAP MI by BAPI or RFC call. So here you can see the Mdo query. So by writing a Mdo query, you can fetch the data from Mdo and you can provide the data to some reporting tool. Okay, either it is the business objects or enterprise portal. So the data can be consumed by the reporting tool by using your Mdo query. The same thing like that if you are writing a SQL query. So SQL query also can be utilized by these reporting tools, as well as this Mdo query also can be utilized. So this is a semantic layer where Mdo persists in MI database, and it persists your data, okay, in SAP MI database, like same like a SQL table. And this is your Mdo acquisition and update. It means you are fetching or updating or deleting the data from the Mdo. And this is the Mdo consumption where actually you are using your Mdo data. So this is overall a structure for SAP MI Mdo. There are three types of Mdo that you can create in SAP MII. First is a persistent Mdo. Second is on-demand Mdo and joint Mdo. So persistent Mdo is you can compare with the SAP, you can compare with the database table. So creating a database table, instead of that, you can create a persistent Mdo in SAP MI to store the data. On-demand Mdo, you can compare a database views. So creating views in SAP in a database, instead of that, you can create on-demand Mdo in SAP MII, and that will fulfill your purpose for the view. So we will not, the on-demand Mdo will not persist the data. It will give a data at the runtime to the UI, and it will again lose the data. It will not store it. So it will a real-time data that will be provided by the on-demand Mdo. And the joint Mdo, that you can create a joint Mdo as well. And that joint Mdo can be joined to the multiple persistent Mdo only. There should not be any on-demand Mdo in a joint Mdo. So you cannot join a Mdo that is on-demand Mdo. Only the persistent Mdo can be joined. So as you know, Mdo support the OpenSQL. So it's only support inner join and your left join. It doesn't support right join because it's support OpenSQL, and OpenSQL does not support a right join. So it's only support inner join and a left join. So that is the reason. So now let me show you how to create a persistent MDO and what is the benefit. So here, let me explain one more thing. As MDO, I'm also creating like a persistent MDO, and that is like a database table. So what is advantage over the database table in MDO? So MDO has a life cycle. Okay, so MDO has a ability that it can retrieve the data from the data source by using the data provider and automatically push the data into the MDO. So even you are not going to write a MDO insert query, you can push the data into the MDO. So this is the advantage in MDO, and that job can be scheduled, that I will show you how actually you can do in SAP MII. So let me log into SAP MI system. So here you can click on content development and click on the workbench to open the workbench. MDO can only be created inside the workbench. This is the workbench object. Let me open in the Internet Explorer. Run it. Okay. So here you can see these all are the project on the server. Here MDO you can create only inside the object tab. As in earlier videos already I have explained that what all object you can create in which tab. So whenever you have to create a MDO, you have to go to the object tab only. So this is the object tab, and let me select any one of the project from here. So just I'm selecting here the MI test, and here nothing is there. So that just right click and move your cursor to new file, and you can see here you can create a persistent MDO, you can create on demand MDO, and you can create joined MDO. So these only three objects you can create related to the MDO in an object tab in SAP MII. So I'm clicking on a persistent MDO. So creating a persistent MDO is nothing but you are creating a database table. The database table also for persist the data, and persistent MDO also persists the data. Only the differences is that the database table persist the data into the database, either that might be the external database, but here creating the MDO, the data will be stored in your SAP MI database that you can say at the NetViewer database on which SAP MI has been installed. So here, if it will come down, you can see first is a data provider. Okay. So you can use the data provider for automatic data insertion to your MDO. Okay, so I will come later for the data provider. So I will show you if you are creating a MDO in SAP MI, that is a persistent MDO. So by two ways you can push the data into the MDO. The first way is that you can you can create the MDO, and after that you can create the Mdo query, and by using that Mdo query you can push the data, you can read the data, you can update the data in a MDO. And the second way is that if you don't want to write the insert query to push the data into the MDO, you can use the data provider feature, and inside this data provider, you can map your any queries, template, or any transaction here in a data provider. And that data provider will be executed on a scheduled as a scheduled task, and the data will be pushed in the MDO. So let me first show you how actually you can use Mdo query to insert the data in Mdo. And after that, I will show you how you can use the data provider to push automatically a data inside the Mdo. So now this is the first tab. Here the second is the attribute. So attribute is nothing but you are going to define a database table column. So whenever you are creating a table in a database, you have to define a table column with the data type. So same thing, the attributes belongs to your column, and you have to create how many columns you need for the MDO with their data type. So just click here at a new to create an attribute. So first time the attribute will be created as the default name attribute underscore one. You can rename it. So just remove this and give your own. So I'm giving here like a plant, and the plant I am keeping as a string, and it's the 400, that's fine. And the second actually I'm just keeping here the line, and keeping the string, and here I am putting here that allow the null value as well. So whenever you are allowing a null value for this line, so you have to click this as well, that allow a null default value. Okay, so let me save here, and let me give here just I am giving a plant MDO as a name. Okay, so it's been saved. Okay, so now you can see this is the MDO that you have created, and that MDO contains these two MDO persist. This MDO consists a two column. One is the plant and another is a line. So now I'm going to run this MDO. So click just on the test and OK. So now you can see there is no data for the plant and line column, right? So now I'm going to insert a data by using Mdo insert query, and going to retrieve the data by using the select to query. So you can write any query template in SAP MI using the catalog tab only. You cannot create a query template in object web and meta-NF. So always you have to come to the catalog to create a query. So any type of query, either that is the MDO query or SQL query or any other query. So let me go here that MI test project, and I'm creating just here one a folder query template, and inside that I'm going to create one MDO query. So here you can see MDO query, select that, and by default IMDO connector will be there that you have to select, and here you need to map a MDO. So where is your MDO? Inside the object tab, and if I will expand it, this is my MDO. Just click and drag to this box. So now this MDO, it means I'm going to write a query on this MDO. So which query? So I'm going to write an insert query in the MDO. So select the insert and select here a insert query. So this screen will come, and I want to insert the data for these two column. So I'm just moving at the right hand side. So this is my attribute plant and line, and for that I'm going to give here the value. Suppose I'm giving the plant value as of 1500 and the line value is at okay, and now I'm going to execute it. Okay, so command query successful. It means one record has been added to my plant MDO. Let me save this Mdo query as well. Insert Mdo query, save it. And now I'm going to the plant MDO here and just running it. So you can see one record is here with the plant 1500 and line is the L1. Okay, so if you running your Mdo itself, it's giving you the data. Even you can write here a Mdo query of type select to select the data as well from the Mdo. So here I'm again mapping the same Mdo here and selecting here a select. Okay, you can write the update as well. So now click on the select query and I want that all the column need to be selected and I will run this. So select here, save it, write here the select underscore Mdo and save it. So if I will run this, it will give me one record. Okay. If I am inserting some other record as well in the Mdo, that I can also do from here. So here, suppose the plant is same, I am going to give here the L2 and now I am going to run it. So this is one insertion happened. Now I'm going to the Mdo select query and I can see these two data in the table. So as you know, in the insert, the same thing we earlier in the SQL query we used to pass here the parameter value, right? So same thing also we can pass here the parameter value as well by using the parameters. So whatever the value will giving here the param1 and param2, the same value will be a place here. Okay, so that also you can do for making it dynamically. You can pass the value as well. So this is your insert and select query on the Mdo. So first I created one Mdo with the two column and I inserted some data through the insert query and then I selected some data with the select query. So this is the one way through that I have pushed some data to Mdo in SAP MII. Now I'm going for the second way to push the data. Okay, so let me delete whatever the data I have inserted in the Mdo. So how you can delete the data? You have to write the delete Mdo queries. So just select here the Mdo on which you want to delete the data. So I want to delete all the data from this plant Mdo. So I will select here the delete and select on double click on the delete query and just save it. Delete Mdo and now you can just run it. So it's run successfully and now I will go to select the data from this Mdo. I'm not able to see any data here. That's great. Now I'm going to push the data not through Mdo query. I'm going to push the data by using the data provider. So by using the data provider, how I can push the data? So let me create one data provider. So data provider you can use here either the any query template or a transaction. So I'm just writing one query template and pushing the data into the Mdo. So what query template I can write? So any type of query template you can use. So let me use one a query template here. I'm using a tag query here. Okay. So let me select a default simulator tag here, and here I'm just using a current and method is the main. Save it. Tag query. So now I'm going to use this query as a data provider, and whatever the data this query will return, I am going to insert into the plant MDO. Okay. So if I'm running it, you can see it's okay. I need to give here for which tag I need the value. So here I'm going for just giving a cylinder temperature value. So just put into the selected tag, save it and run it now. So you can see I'm getting a current value. What is the current cylinder temperature value at this time? And whatever the query data it's returned by this tag query, I'm going to insert into the MDO. So how I can do it? So I can do it by using a data provider. So in a data provider, I can map any query template or any transaction. So I'm going to map here the query template. You can try with the transaction as well. So here, this is my data provider I have created in a catalog as a tag query. I drag here, and now you can see it is showing a type at a tag query. And now I'm going to the attribute. So at the attribute, you can see there is a plant and line already. I have that is the custom attribute. I can add this attribute as well. So I'm adding these two attribute as well in the MDO. And this two attribute will come, two attribute value will come from a data provider from tag query. So what will be the value for the plant? So I'm going to give some default value for the plant here, like let me give some default value here, like 1500. So it will be default value. And for the line, I am going to give a default value as L1. So always the L1 will be inserted. Okay. And for the date, it will be coming from a data provider, and cylinder temperature one also coming from the data provider. And now I'm going to save it. Okay. So let me do one thing. Let me make a date and time as a key field here. Okay. So I'm just making it a key field. So always remember that keep one key field if you want to update or delete with the condition. Okay. So now I saved it and I'm running it. So you can see plant, line, date and time and cylinder are four a column for this MDO, but there is no data. Now I am not going to write an insert MDO query to push the data. Now I am going to use this data provider tag query to push automatically data into the plant MDO. So how I will do that? So for that, you have to use a life cycle of the MDO. So indexing also you can use in MDO, like in a SQL also you can do indexing on a table. So like same like that on the MDO also you can perform indexing. So I'm not going for the indexing right now. And in a property, the custom property with the key and value pair, you can add it. If you want to add some custom attributes for this plant MDO, you can add it, and that can be read by the query. So here I'm going for the life cycle. So what is the life cycle here? Life cycle will create a background jobs through the scheduler, and that scheduler will run on a specified time, and it will push the data from the it will take the data from the tag query and it will push into the plant MDO. Okay, so now just click on new to create one new task. So here you can change the task name. So I'm just giving here data insert by tag query, and I'm clicking on enable, and the credential alias you need to provide the MI credential. Okay, so scheduler, or whenever the task will be run by the scheduler will use this credential. Okay, so here you can see at the every second. So this task will be run at the every second. It will push the data into the MDO. So I'm just keeping at the every second, and here you can see the mode, the replace. The replace, if you will be using, it will delete all the data from the MDO, and it will push whatever the tag query will return the same thing will be inserted into the MDO. So first it delete and then insert. So that is the reason it is the replace. Update, it means you can say this is the upsert. It means it will update the data if the same data is coming with the same key. So it will update, otherwise it will insert. And delete if you want to delete the data from the MDO. So here I'm selecting the update, so it will insert and update the data depending on the key value. And here the input also you can pass, so that can be used by the update, replace, or the delete, it can be used. So only that filter data will be affected. Here you can see the post execution. If you want that at every execution of this tag query, at the background job, you want to call a transaction and you want to send a mail or you want to notify someone, you can create your own transaction with the mail services or mobile services. You can map here and you can provide the input parameter, and that transaction will be executed after every task when the tag query will be executed by the scheduler, and it will post the data to the through the mail services or mobile services to the concerned person. And here the delete is not active, only the delete will be activated here if you will be selecting the delete mode. So I'm just going for this demo purpose with the update. So here I have enabled it. So, okay, enable all. And here you need to deploy. So whenever I will deploy this will, a message will flash here, deployment finished successfully. And with the same name, one scheduler will be created in your SAP MI, and that scheduler will run this job at every 1 second and push the data into the MDO. So if you want to see the scheduler, go to the MII and click on scheduler here. Okay, let me go to the system management, go to the scheduler. And here if you go with the search with the scheduler name, and you can see the scheduler has been created. Okay, and it is running. Okay, so first is run. So first time it's already got run at, it's running at every 1 second. So if I will go to the MDO, select query, and if I go to the select query, and now I'm selecting all and moving here and save it. So I don't want to see all these columns. So you can delete from here, save it and run it. So now you can see one data has been inserted here with the plant 1500, that default value, line is the default value, date and time and cylinder temperature that is coming from your tag query. And at every 1 second, the data will be pushed in a MDO. Okay. So this is the advantage of the MDO. You can automate the data insertion through the job. Okay. And that can be done by using your MDO lifecycle. Okay. So now I'm coming here and saving it. And again, if we run this MDO, it might get the 2 record. Okay, so at every second, you can see one record is getting inserted into your MDO without writing any insert MDO query. And this is your visualization. So what is the visualization here? So visualization is nothing but you can visualize your MDO data in a different, either in a grid or either in a different I5 charts. Okay. So how you can do that? So you have to write one select MDO query and you have to map here, and you have to create one display template and you have to map here, and you can use this MDO, and that MDO will show your data in a specified grid or I5 chart. So let me quickly map here one MDO query. So already you have one MDO query, select MDO query, right? So here you can see the select MDO query, it's giving me this value. So now what I am doing for the select MDO query, I am going to restrict this MDO query to return me only one record. Okay. So you can do by here in the row count, just write one. It will not give you more than one record. Okay, so only one record it will show, and that record I am going to show you in a gauge display. Okay, so how we will do that? So I'm going quickly and create here one display template. So for display template, quickly I am creating one display template folder, and inside that display template I am going to create one display template. Okay, so you can create your own display template, either the i5 chart, i5 grid, or any other display template that using the applet also you can use, but I am going to use the i5 chart. And here different type of charts are there. Any one you can use according to your data, and if you want to display in a different format you can use this. So I'm going to display in a gauge format, okay, in a full circle, and I'm just giving here is a glossy display. And now I'm going to the title. So here I'm just giving a title like the temperature display. Now I am going and creating here a data mapping. So inside the data mapping, I have to go to the query template that I have just created. Select Mdo, I am putting here and refresh it. You can see all the data is coming here. I am mapping the cylinder temperature value to the value columns, and the date and time I am mapping to the label column that will show as a label. Okay, so here I am creating that data. So now I'm going to display the data by using this select Mdo query. So this select Mdo query, let me sort the data on the basis of date and time. So you can sort the data also by date and time by descending order. So let me sort it. So always it will give me the latest data. Okay. So now I'm going to the Mdo and mapping here the query template just I created here. So I created a query template, a select Mdo. Okay. And the display template, I am going to use the display data. Okay. So here, let me just click and drag here. So it is your display template. And now save it and run it. So your data to show in a display template, you have to select the display applet or SAP UI5. And if you want to give some input parameter in dynamically, you want to provide into the Mdo or in your display data or your query template, you can add here and you can provide. So click on the OK. And now you can see your gauge has been displayed here with your current data. So now you can do here, if you want to set the refresh rate, you can set here the refresh rate. I'm keeping as a 2 second. And also I'm enabling the auto refresh. Okay, so what will happen? Automatically it will refresh the data. Whenever the data will be refreshed in a Mdo, that will fetch by your Mdo query, and it will be refreshed here on the screen as well. So this is the 69.3. It will change. And here you can see a security. So security roles, like any SAP MI object, there is a security role that you can use, that who can have access to edit your Mdo object or any other SAP MI object. But here this is the Mdo object. So who will read, who will have only the read permission and who has the edit permission. So depending on the role assignment here, so reader roles, so those user who have a SAP MI user role assigned, only they can read the, they can execute that Mdo and see the data. they cannot make any configuration changes in the object. And those who have assigned to the role administrator, developer, and super administrator, they can read the data as well as they can write the data as well. Okay. So here, if I will go to the MDO, okay, I have not saved this. So that's the reason it's not refreshing on the screen. So let me save it and run, and now the value is 65. So you can see the here also the value is 65. So whenever it will get changed in SAP MII, it will change here as well. Okay, so now right now it is the 65, and if it will change as well. And how this is the color coding is coming, the color coding also coming from your MDO. So go to the MDO here. So I have created a display template, data mapping. Go to the x-axis, and here you can see if the value is 80 to 100, it will color will be this. 40 to 80, the color will be this, and if the 0 to 40, the color will be green. So if you can see the 0 to 40, the color is green, yellow, or this, and you can see the needle is moving whenever the value is getting refreshed here. So this is your persistent MDO, how to create, insert the data either through the data provider or either through writing a Mdo query. So now the second thing is that quickly I'm going to cover how you can create on-demand Mdo. So here there's the option for on-demand Mdo, and you can also use the on-demand Mdo from here. So you can create your on-demand Mdo, and you can use the data provider here. Okay, so let me use the same data provider here that I have already created tag query. So you can use this and go to the attribute. So I'm not going to create any custom attribute here. I'm keeping the same attribute that I have that from the data provider. And here in the properties, you can create your custom property if you need. The visualization also, you can create the same thing as that I created for the MDO, persistent MDO. Security is the same, only you can see the life cycle is disabled for it. Why the life cycle is disabled? The reason only is that the on-demand MDO does not persist the data. Okay, it will not persist the data, only it will read the data from data provider and it will show to the user. So let me save it and give it the name on demand. Save it and now run it. You can see one record has been inserted here as well, and that is coming from your on demand MDO. So now what is the security is also same as the persistent MDO, and here you can see one new thing is that dynamic parameters. Okay, so what is this dynamic parameter? So whenever I'm running this, I'm getting one record here, and if I will go to the tag query, I have selected here in a data source current. Okay, so I want that whenever I will run a on demand query, so I'm calling from on demand the tag query. So this mode also need to be changed to the history. So if I'll make it the history and run it, you can see the multiple data, all the history data you are able to see as a time series data. Okay, so close it and leave it at the current only, and that value I will passing through the Mdo query. Okay, so how I will pass through the Mdo query? So for that you have to go to the on demand Mdo, and here you have to use the dynamic query template. So here the dynamic query template you have to add here that you want to change the mode. Okay, so select the mode here, go to the link and select the object parameter 1, and here by default it's fetching the current. The reason is that for the tag query I have written and selected the mode as a current. So now I'm saving it, and quickly I'm going to write a query by using on-demand MDO. So I'm going to write a Mdo query, and that query will be on-demand MDO. So this is my on-demand MDO I'm putting here and selecting here the mode select. So it means I'm going to select it, run it. Oh, sorry. Let me select some column as well, whatever column I need. So I need both the column. So MDO query underscore on demand. Okay. So now I saved it. I am running it. So you can see these two data is coming. So how this two data is coming? So this data is coming from your on-demand MDO. It's executing the on-demand MDO and it's fetching the data. So now I'm going to the object parameter, and now I'm passing here in the object parameter one, I'm passing a history. I'm dynamically changing the mode of underlying tag query that is called by your dynamic MDO. So now I'm clicking here and clicking on OK. So you can see from a query also I can get a history data. Okay, so you can dynamically change the input parameters, all the MDO's parameters dynamically, and you can fetch the data. So right now, even you can apply the filter as well from here. So here you can see I want only the value that is greater than 99. So how we will write it? So you have to go to the on-demand MDO and you have to add here. And now I'm passing a value in a param. Okay. So this is my parameter. And here you can select the object parameter 2. In object parameter 2, I will pass the param value. And here I'm not passing anything right now. Save it and go to the here go to the query. So now go to the tag query. Okay, so here I pass that the history, and in second I'm passing 80°. It means from the greater than 80. So you can see here all the data you are getting a greater than 80 because I have passed the 80 in a second parameter. So this is my on-demand MDO, and in on-demand MDO you can query the data on the basis of your parameters. So whatever the parameter you are sending, accordingly you can get the data. So here this is the query getting called. So in a tag query you can see the cylinder temperature and all, and you can get the data in your query by writing the tag query. So here on demand MDO, you can see it's abstracting, it's working as a abstract layer. It means it's abstract your data source, and it abstracts your data source to the UI. It means UI is only access from UI, it's only accessible your MDO query, and that MDO query calls your on-demand MDO, and on-demand MDO calls your tag query and gives you the data. So thank you very much. If you have any concern, any doubt, you can comment on the video or you can mail it. I will try to resolve the query. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you again.